Um, However, for those of us who were followers of the Messiah and believed that the Bible is the Word of God, the vocalized breath of God, and we looked into it to see, well, what does the Bible have to say about this? And that's where kind of the surprise and the shock came, because the Bible also talked about vehicles that flew, and I want to kind of start taking you into that and kind of build the biblical perspective into this whole phenomenon that will then lead us all the way up to the modern age and into through the prophecies into the future. It will give us clarity. There is the great passage that's perhaps one of the most famous ones, Elijah. It's found in 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 11. And it talks about how Elijah was taken up in a chariot of fire with horses of fire. And I want you to just pause for a moment and think about that. Horses of fire, chariot of fire. Now, the word that is used in the Bible for chariot is rekab. That is the word that is used there. And it comes from the root word rakab, which means to mount, to ride an animal or a vehicle. And rekab does mean chariot, but actually it means vehicle. The only reason it was translated as chariot is because until today, there was really no other vehicle other than the chariot. So there's no point in translating it as anything, else. Another word that is used in the Bible in the passages where these chariots are mentioned, and I'm going to talk about other passages, is merkaba, which also is translated as chariot, but it also means vehicle. So rekab, merkaba, these are kind of the words that the Bible uses. So it talks about how Elijah ascended, in this chariot, and that story of Elijah ascending is not the only story of beings ascending. There's the story of Enoch. It says in Genesis chapter 5, in Bereshit 5, verse 24, that Enoch was taken up by God. There is the story, of course, of the ascension of the son of David from the tribe of Judah, who ascended into a cloud. The glory, it's understood that he ascended into this cloud. And we also see in the prophecies, like in Daniel chapter 7, where we see a prophecy of the Messiah, who's referred to as the Son of Man. And the Lord often referred to that prophecy in the Son of Man. The Son of Man arriving into the Ancient of Days, to God, to the throne room of the universe. We see that in prophecy, the Son of Man is arriving in a cloud. So we see the Messiah leaving and ascending into a cloud, and we see prophetically, through the prophetic lens, that he arrives to the Ancient of Days also in a cloud. And this idea of, God riding, being the rider of these clouds, there are many passages, like in Deuteronomy chapter 33, it says, "There is no one like God who rides through the heavens." And again, the word, anytime you see the word ride in the Bible, it's associated with the word that is used for chariot or these vehicles, these vehicles that are spoken about in Elijah and other places that I'm going to show you. But I just want to kind of associate that even God is associated with this word of riding that is associated with the idea of vehicle, a chariot, these recabs. O kingdom of the earth, sing to God, sing praises to the Lord, to the one who rides in the highest heaven, in the highest heavens. Sorry. Bless Yahweh, O my soul, O Yahweh, my God. You are very great. You clothe yourself with splendor and majesty. You cover yourself with light as with a garment. You stretch out the heavens like a tent curtain, the one who sets beams in the waters of his upper chambers, who makes clouds his chariots, his vehicles, his merkabah. And so, this idea, okay, well, we are now looking outside of our window and we're seeing all of this flying stuff. And so now when we're reading about flight in the Bible, of humans flying, of the Son of God leaving, of Enoch leaving, of these chariots mentioned, like if you kind of look at 2 Kings verse 6, chapter 17, it talks about how Elijah and his disciple Elisha were there, and Elisha was a little bit afraid. And Elijah prays and asks God to remove Elisha's blindness so that he can see that they are surrounded, protected by these chariots of fire, by these Merkabah of fire, the same one that removes, Elijah eventually from the earth. They're there around, but and this is interesting. This is really a window into camouflage. People say, oh, they're probably in another dimension. That's why we can't see them. Well, what if we are just blinded, like this friend of mine who had a sighting as a child? Perhaps, the mind of children can see. But people get abducted in the middle of the day. In these things appear in the middle of the day, but we don't see them because perhaps our minds are blinded. The blinding of the mind is something we see in the Bible. We see it in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where the angels cast blindness over these guys. We see it in the story of the Yeshua after his resurrection on the road to Emmaus, where he blinds his disciples and they don't recognize him. And we see it here in the story of Elijah, where Elijah prays that God remove, the blindness of Elisha's eyes so that he can see that they're surrounded by these, chariots. Another very interesting passage that talks about this is in Sinai. In David, King David, he says the Merkabah of Elohim, the chariots of God. Well, even God has these, these rekab, the rekab of Elohim are 20,000, even thousands of angels. Oh, there's an association made between the angels and these chariots. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai, in the holy place. So the Lord